Substances Act and makes it legal for farmers to grow hemp in all 50 states. Hemp, if you don't know, is closely related to marijuana but lacks the fun side effects. This could be the first step in easing the federal laws on marijuana in the United States, which experts predict could be a $75 billion market come 2030. There are publicly traded cannabis companies in the U.S. and Canada, and with the passage of the Farm Bill, it's now open season to cash in on the green stuff. So, how does the U.S. win the cannabis war? Kennedy spoke to CEO and chairman of Tidal Royalty Corporation, Paul Rosen, earlier.
I salute your quest for freedom, young man. Thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So what does this inclusion in the Farm Bill mean for your industry?
What the Farm Bill means is it essentially makes the commercialization of non-THC cannabis, THC content below 0.3%, descheduled, fully legal. So what this means specifically is that farmers can now legally grow hemp in all 50 states. And
how hard was it before?
Well, the problem wasn't so much hemp, like the commercial hemp, but the problem was harvesting cannabinoids. You've probably heard CBD like 8,000 times in the last couple of weeks, so you're going to hear it a lot more now. This is going to essentially ignite the CBD market, and it means that for the first time we have clarity that now you can harvest or manufacture CBD in one state and cross state lines. This, Kennedy, is the key, because until now you only had the ability to grow and keep it within the state, and that really was sort of a chill on the natural business progression.
Now, one of the things that's working against cannabis investors is the fact that this patchwork of states having different cannabis laws, different medical marijuana laws, it's very difficult to make money overall because, you know, federally it is still very much a controlled substance. Now, Canada seems to have the upper hand here. How important is it that they will be able to raise money and trade publicly and have, you know, nationally legal marijuana in the country up north?
Well, one thing we've learned from Canada is that the introduction of capital is of paramount importance to building the type of large, durable, sustainable cannabis economy that we've built in Canada. And for the capital to flow, you're going to have to eventually resolve this dichotomy between cannabis being illegal federally under the Controlled Substances Act, and you mentioned there are now 33 states that have cannabis programs.
Does that put those companies at a disadvantage, the U.S. companies?
I think they are at a disadvantage right now because they're still technically operating against the Controlled Substances Act. And as long as it's technically illegal, even if there's a consensus that this is going to resolve itself, there's a certain type of institutional capital that simply cannot play until this is harmonized.
Yeah, you do talk about harmony because there is a bit of discord here, and it makes less and less sense. I mean, the great hope you have is that future generations who come into power in Congress and, you know, even in their cities and states, they see this so differently than older generations who've been very static on the issue.
This is really not even a very divisive issue between sort of left and right or blue and red.
Not anymore.
It's probably the least contentious issue between the left and the right in America.
Yeah.
Quinpac polled that 64% of Americans believe in legalization of cannabis, 93% support medical, and a majority of both parties support cannabis reform.
That's absolutely right. Both parties. It's no longer just Democrats and independents, Republicans
and
now
libertarians.
Yeah,
Also,
well, come on, man. Libertarians been a little loosey-goosey on this whole thing for a while.
Indeed
God bless them. So if you were to put your money on hemp, CBD, or cannabis, marijuana, where do you think is going? Where are you going to see the most growth?
Yeah, so I look at it as one integrated economy, and this sort of like separation of between what is hemp and what is cannabis, I think is really not going to last much longer. So I see it as a whole plant economy, but I do see that the two sides, if you will, the psychoactive side, which involves THC, and then the non-psychoactive side, are really going to collectively put a huge imprint on our culture, our society, and even our social justice. So I see upstream cannabis, ultimately cannabis being an ingredient in a whole host of products, consumer packaged goods, topicals, cosmetics, beverages, edibles, and I think it'll start to really have a positive impact on society.
It's really interesting because you talk about a younger generation, they look at people who drink alcohol, and, you know, it's so anachronistic to them. You know, it really is like a throwback activity.
Yeah.
But people are consuming cannabis in very different ways now. What do you think ultimately will be the most popular?
Well, it won't be smoking. I mean, I certainly hope it won't be smoking because I'm I'm a pro-cannabis, but I'm fervently anti-smoking.
Yeah.
I think even though cannabis has never been proven to be carcinogenic, it's still a lung irritant. So smoking will always be a part of it, but it's sort of like, to
People
use your
really
phrase,
are moving into.
But it's anachronistic. It's an old culture. But we're looking for new, innovative delivery mechanisms. So beverages.
Is that where the money is?
I think beverages are going to be a particularly very strong category.
So people are going to go to bars and they're going to order something with cannabis versus something with alcohol.
Well, precisely because it's socially acceptable. This idea of pairing a beverage, an adult beverage, with dinner or after work to unwind, very much embedded in our culture. But for people that don't want to get drunk or don't view alcohol as a healthy input, they can now have a de-alkalized cannabis-infused beer.
It's fascinating because, you know, if people want to lose their minds a little bit, maybe a little safer than alcohol, which, you know, causes a lot of cancer and cirrhosis and
we
death.
view it as a wellness product, a nutraceutical product, and even though it has a little bit of